Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome back. It's Zakiziel here, and today I'll be reacting to Homunculus Covens of the Dark Eldar by Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer. I apologize that this has taken so long, since this is one that was recommended to me quite a while back, actually. My backlog has been very long. But that aside, I highly recommend, and that if you're not doing so already, that you check out Baldermore's channel. He makes great content. The stories that he uses to explain the lore are very entertaining and well written. And I cannot recommend it enough. And as always, there'll be a link to the original video in the description box below. One last thing before I get into this is, because it's a very long video, at an hour and 9 minutes thereabouts, I'm actually going to split this one into two parts. But without further ado, let us begin. See what he has to say about what, if I remember correctly, are some of the remaining nobility from, well, from the Eldar Empire. Because I heard that most of the homunculi are former nobles.
It looks down on me, its face so similar to ours, yet not. The light that shines and illuminates, he and I, and the board I am on. The utensils on the myriad racks behind us, around us. They glisten. All are of different sizes, metals, shapes, designs. Some are delicate, exquisite, one might say. Others look cruel and heavy and terrible. But all are sharp, and all glisten with reflected light. Racks run for as far as I can see, well into the darkness and beyond.
So this guy's actually in the middle of being experimented on by a homunculus. Yeah. The being captured by the Dark Eldar is one of those things, just to begin with, that'll make people that will just make people want to die, because what the Dark Eldar will do to you are the amount of suffering and terror that they will put you through. I have heard of a case where there was a planet that was being invaded, and they went into a panic because they thought they were being raided by the Drukhari, and then they relaxed somewhat when they found out it was the Night Lords, which the Night Lords themselves are horrifying, given their terror tactics and how most, if not all of them, from what I've heard, that are around now, are scum that prey on the weak specifically.
Like a huge warehouse of equipment, where no two things are contained that are the same. And we are at its center. Above us is darkness, but I can feel things swaying, perhaps hanging just outside the light, perhaps hundreds of meters above. It is impossible to tell. But I can hear the creak of chains, the slight grinding of metal on metal, rust spitting down on each other. I can almost feel anticipation emanating from the darkness, like a wave of excitement. Or is it hunger? We have an audience. But if that is so, then I am the main attraction. It would be a first. All of my existence I have been nothing. From my time of first breath to the moment it all I had thought at the...
So I'm guessing that this guy was a member of the lower classes, potentially either a worker on a high world or maybe some farmer on an agri world. basically the lower rungs of society, the many essentially faceless and nameless workers that keep the Imperium going.
Time ended. Nothing. I was a menial in a huge, choked jungle of plasteel concrete and doors. Always doors.
Oh,
Metal
definitely a
walls, metal
factory.
floors, metal skies, metal dreams, metal existence. Metal and stone.
Oh, a hive
One of the
world.
pointless, thankless, teeming billions of a hive. Each day is a toil. Each night is tiredness, not even begun to be scratched by the limited hours we are permitted to rest. It seeps into you until you are always tired. Never time for what someone might call recreation. What is that in the hive? If you do not work, you are sent to the queues. Nobody says it, but we all know.
The queues, huh? This is giving me some vibes similar to how in the Schola Progenium, the people who don't behave if may be encased in concrete and literally be made part of the walls. I have a feeling that these people are going to get turned into corpse starch. Because, well, a queue doesn't, like, queues don't really sound like a firing line, and, I know that the Imperium already recycles bodies to make food. So anyone who is either unwilling or unable to work, like I imagine, and is going to end up being used for something.
For all who join the queues stand, occasionally slouch a few paces, then stand again. But when they reach the gates to the processing plant, there is no seeing them
Oh yeah,
again.
definitely corpse starch.
Yet trailers
There's the
full of
processing
corpse
plant.
starch come out the other end. I saw them once when I was young,
Called it.
when I managed to get through one of the doors, hiding from sight behind the crowds who went through one way or the other. But only once. And none believed me. Not because they did not believe, I think, but because they did not wish to know. None did.
Yeah, I've heard, by the way, that humans have a thing with them where, and this is something that you yourself don't necessarily have to know this for it to take effect, but that humans do not, like, generally speaking, do not like eating other humans. And I have heard that there are cases of someone being fed human flesh, not being told that it's human flesh, but they still reacted adversely to it because on some way they could kind of tell, and they'd have shakes and stuff like that. So I imagine, then, yeah, it makes sense that they would deny it just for their own sanity, given, well, everything they're already under pressure. And I'm back. Sorry about that. There was a power outage, but I'll be picking up where I left off.
So in time, I stopped talking about it to anyone. As later I came to find out that all knew. We just did not talk about it. To think that the conclusion of our days of endless toil, endless suffering were for nothing. That there was no reward at its end, but to shuffle one last time towards a place that would make us into the meal of the morrow. Better to never think about it.
Ah,
But that was then, when we were free, citizens of the Imperium of mankind.
free in quotation marks, by the way, given what I know about the Imperium and well, the way people live in the Imperium, which, if I remember correctly, in a lot of places, is it is considered a necessity for them to essentially work people their entire lives like this until they are unable to work any further and then turn them into corpse starch, given that the Imperium is beset on all sides by enemies. Especially considering how, in many science fiction settings, just one of the major threats that the Imperium faces, such as, say, the orcs, could be an end times level threat. But having to deal with all of these at once? Yeah.
Yesterday, before the assault, before the Night of Terrors, the night I was taken by the evil ones, the Xenos. The ones who came to take us. The ones who herded us through the habs, through the runs and tunnels, who slew any who resisted, slew many who did not, and merely cackled like demented jesters. They were like stretched people, like a mirror room of magic, where the fat become thin and the short become tall. These things. They could look beautiful and terrible all in the same moment. When they moved, it was a blur, a dream made real. They just appeared and darted around us so fast none could truly see them move. And it was over.
I like, by the way, how he's accurately representing the fact that the Dark Eldar and Eldar both move so fast that, well, again, by comparison, humans move in slow motion. That's a comparison used with normal Eldar. The Drukhari are supposed to be able to move even faster as the trade-off for having lost any psychic ability, really.
Like a nightmare. It happened so fast. Happened so thoroughly. I saw the endless ships they brought down, the lines of us that were being herded towards shimmering holes in the space, like doorways into the realms of dreams. Always doorways. And I was pushed through one eventually. Resistance was futile and final. And after all, what could I be scared of? Because when it came down to it, I was nothing. I am nothing. And could there really be anything worse than that, which we already faced every day? The death of dreams, the death of hope, the slow deterioration of our bodies as we were ground down by long hours, little food and no reason at all to continue. Nothing to aspire to, nowhere to escape. So when these stretched men and women, these aliens who looked so much like us when at rest, when still, when they pushed me through the tear in reality into the light, I did not go with trepidation, but expectation. Because what could be worse than being nothing?
Ah, yes. Local Imperial factory worker from a hive world learns about what the Drukhari and the horrendous things they do to people.
I could not have known. And here I am, strapped to a board, immobile. Like a maestro of some orchestra, the thing above me elegantly bows to the darkness above, around us, the silent shadow. He indicates with a flourish of his hands, so many, that he is about to begin. For all the world, if I had not been at the center stage, I would have been enwrapped, and as excited at the promised spectacle as any who may be watching now. He was so eloquent, despite his terrible visage. So terrible. I felt like I was in the presence of a dark performer, who played to the gods themselves, if he were not one. At this thought, his head snapped up, its eyes full on mine, those terrible eyes. He moved toward me, but there was no sound of steps, no movement or swaying in him. 'Twas as if he simply glided toward me. I could not move my head to look down over the edge of the elaborate slab I was on to confirm whether he levitated, or if some other force kept him from the ground, for nothing that walks moves so cleanly, so smoothly. Nothing.
Oh yeah, because don't homunculi actually, like, in the stuff they have strapped onto the back. Isn't there a anti-grav, like a small anti-grav engine that allows him to hover around the place?
But as he closed, his mouth opened, and out came a language I understood. How? The Xenos are animals, is what I knew, what I had been told. Yet this one moved like a ghost, like an apparition, and spoke as we. No.
It is so ironic that he thought that Xenos were animals. Which, by the way, scientifically speaking, we're all animals, because it's classification of life is I think is animal, plants, and fungi. But aside from that, the fact that to the Eldar, they see humans the way humans would see monkeys. So it is quite ironic.
No, you were right before you were right. You do indeed lay in the presence of a dark performer, and as you felt so rightly, you lay in the presence of a god. Me. I shall perform a transaction possible only to the divine. For I now tear back the veil. I shall slip my hand into the very mouth of eternity, of finality, of death. And I shall drag out the beings I've deigned to save from its maw, from its hunger.
Oh.
And the only coin I require, the only fuel for my alchemy, my miracle, is the most base and useless material the universe knows of, the dregs of reality that nobody wishes existed. And
oh, so is this guy going to be sacrificed in order to bring back some Dark Eldar? Maybe an Archon who might have died in battle, and who had the money to ensure, well, either the money or the connections, to ensure that after his demise, he could be reconstituted from whatever remained of his body.
And never will any mourn. Its eyes encompass me entirely. I drown in its darkling pools as it nods its head to me and smiles a terrible rictus grin and says, You. We will go on a journey together. You will walk in the footsteps of titans. Will be shown all of the wonders that I have accrued over my near endless existence. All this I will do for you, to you, so they may live, so they may breathe again. He looks up at this, into the darkness above us. For they have paid the ferryman, as your people would say, and I shall bring them back across the rivers of night to my side, and then back out into the great city, the sempiternal city, the dark city of Cormora. But our journey, it shall be long. It shall be glorious. You will experience more in these days and weeks than even the accumulated memory of your entire race can fathom. It will be without compare.
Considering the mastery that the homunculi have over the ability to, mold the physical form in especially grotesque ways, I am I would not find that to be an exaggeration.
For I am, as you so rightly identified, so quickly grasped, a god amongst mortals. I am so far beyond anything you can presently imagine that it is truly a gift to share this with you. I am not sure you are worthy, but we shall discern this on the trek together. Forever together. You will live out the last of your existence in my presence, so blessed art thou. While I work, while I perform my opus on your body, in your body, on your mind, in your soul, I will enlighten you. I will raise you up. I shall sing you a lullaby without end, for your life shall conclude for ere it will. For I shall sing thee the tale of what some call the fool, which we call, well, inevitability, evolution, apotheosis. I will make your senses sing, your every nerve and neuron flare with the most incandescent of experiences. I will allow you to flee and catch you again, time and time again. I will send dark things to fill your mind while I take your eyes out still functioning, then place them at a vantage point so you can see me unbind and rebind your body again and again. Sometimes I will allow you to experience each slice, each caress, each movement as it occurs. At other times I will deny you the reality of the experience while you witness it, then have it all crash down onto you in a nanosecond as I reattach your eyes. Like the pain, the sensation was held in your eyes, the mirrors of the soul.
Ah, so it was just the myriad ways that he's going to torture this guy. You know, considering how debased and debauched the Dark Eldar are, or given that they've gotten arguably worse since the pre-fall days of debauchery, it, there's I get the feeling that there might be some Drukari who actually would want this done to them because they might actually enjoy it.
I will make you kill your loved ones, those who are here or so. You think there are none, but you forget the faces you have seen all your life, the ones that are etched on to your existence, your mind. They are all here also, and I have found them all. The one you thought yourself enamored with a year ago, the one who you first coupled with, the one who looked somewhat like she who gave you birth. I have read your mind, sifted your thoughts and memories, have located them all. No, there is no warp here. I am no psyker. I do not need such tricks. But what we can do with neuroscience, with our merest trinkets, you will equate to the deepest of magics. So far above you we are. And we...
Yep, as the saying goes, any sufficiently advanced technology will look like magic to the untrained.
shall see your tolerance to all, your breadth and depth, the outer limits of your soul, how far it can go, how expansive you are. And the ones, the loved ones, I shall have you kill them when I tire of having my lax do it, when you are ready, when you despair, when you are past that and the axe mean nothing to you anymore. Then I shall blend your genes, show you the faces of the children you would have bred had you successfully coupled. With narcotics and arcane trick, I shall make you live out entire lives in the blink of my eye, then rob you of all that they contain. You will never know what is real as I bend your perception like the deity I am, and the things I will get you to do. Oh, the experiences you will have, the limits you will test, the depths. With each one, a tiny slither of your soul will be shed, and you will become thinner and thinner as our experiences continue. Each slither will be a morsel to those above. Each cry of pain, each wail of regret, each bubbling moment of insensate jabbering will feed those above. It will make them whole again. Each time I peel off your skin, the suffering will allow them to grow their own. Each time your heart feels about to break, a beat above us will begin anew.
So this is the process by which they actually do the resurrection. Or unless he's just using, analogies, I think is the correct term. But I guess technically what he said about showing all these seemingly wonderful experiences technically wasn't wrong, because he is going to show them to him, and then rip away all the wonderful experiences and is until his sense of reality is completely shattered, and he has experienced having everything that he has ever enjoyed in life being ripped away from him.
But even then, even when you are gone, when you feel there is nothing more you can endure, nothing more you can experience, nothing more you can give, it is then that we shall start in earnest. Then you will pass through the doorway I open, and I shall take you to a level of suffering that has never been experienced, dreamed of, by the most wretched and complex, inspired or genius of your entire race.
Again, why it is that there's that whole situation where it's like, oh no, the Dark Eldar. Oh wait, no, never mind. It's just the Night Lords.
If I were to gain a list of all of the atrocities your people have ever performed, one on the other, each vile act, each moment of sadism, each pain inflicted, and tallied them, it would not be more than a prologue to the litany of pain we will experience together. For you are about to be the harp by which a virtuoso plays a lament to the universe. You are but the instrument by which I shall awaken those who have paid my fee. Some require an orchestra with banks of instruments, hundreds sometimes. But not I. You are honored, for I am a soloist. But whilst I begin, I shall sing thee a lullaby. The universe was young when we woke. Our hearts were immortal, our souls so much mightier than yours. We were eternal. When we died, we simply waited until our next incarnation, slipping from one life, one body, one vehicle to the next in a never-ending existence merely punctuated by periods of formlessness.
So he's being told about the history of the Eldar. Also, yeah, like as some people will say about the Eldar, or as say them being vulnerable to descending into debauchery and all that stuff. But it's like I don't think there are very many people who could experience and literally millions of years of time passing, and every time you die you just reincarnate, and every time you have a problem your people can just make a god to solve that problem. Like, you're eventually gonna run out of things to experience, or at least normal things, and get bored. And you're gonna start searching for something, anything to break up the monotony. Humans already do stuff like that. It took the Eldar way longer, comparatively speaking, to get to that point than any one human, than like the lifetime of any one human who has ever done that.
An internal river, a cascade of experiences, one after another, building, ever building, like a tower. In our earliest waking, we were thrust into a war the likes has never been seen since, nor ever will. Even now the Ogier that arise are nothing compared to their might of old, without the full force of the Ingir masters, who they have made thralls. But they went into slumber, fleeing through time from our majesty, our power. So without them to challenge us, we set about ruling this galaxy. We brought the Krog, the orcs to Brook, and culled them again and again until they were naught but an inconvenience. None could match us. Some arose every now and again to attempt to challenge us. The fools. We destroyed them all. For we were the masters of the material and the spiritual. Our connection to the ether, what you call the warp, a gateway to power unheard of, inconceivable to your kind. The very building blocks of the universe are ours to arrange at our whim.
Yep. Having locked away the Chaos Gods to portions of the warp to reduce their influence and effectively keep them under control, being able to magic up whatever you need because, Wraithbone is a thing.
The only boundaries self-imposed, the only blocks to our power were mewling weakness and simpering cowardice. Fetters left on us by a culture that propounded the bland and contained, shackles we would eventually throw off. For countless millions of years we ruled. We explored every nook and cranny of this realm, this galaxy, snatching the keys to reality via our science and skill. Nor did we merely perform prosaic experiment and exploration only. Our culture reached heights unattainable by others, you weaker and pallid foe copies of our splendor. Our writing, our culture, our knowledge and understanding, our existence was nothing short of semi-divine. But that was the rub, the challenge. We were only semi-divine then, still clutching the blankets of respectability and denial that hid the cowering child beneath. Eventually, after eons encountered, some arose to challenge the existing dogma, bright beings of light. I was one of them, one of the great ones, the trailblazers.
One of those nobles who started the pleasure cults.
Saw through the lies of the timid. We glimpsed reality as it truly was. We knew that there was no greater exaltation than the moment, the most intense of experiences. For all life was experience, all of reality was perception. So by freeing ourselves from these self-imposed shackles, we evolved. Some would always attempt to control others, to bring them down to their level of mediocrity, to prevent them from ascending. The bleating of the craft-world Eldar, those that your race believe are the only ones. They and their sham existence of self-denial and insipid weakness still believe in the old ways, the ways of restraint.
Oh yeah, because, if I remember correctly, a lot of people in the Imperium actually don't know that the Eldar are not a homogeneous species, as if humans are homogeneous considering how many ways they are fractured, what with chaos being a thing. But yeah, the fact that there's Eldar, there's the Craftworld Eldar, there's the Eldar Corsairs, who I think are the Craftworld Eldar who left the Craftworld to become space pirates because they want excitement. There's the Exodites, who are riding dinosaurs, the Harlequins, basically space clowns, and then the Drukhari.
When they and their even more puritanical allies failed to put the brakes on, failed in their cause to return to the safety of servitude to tradition, they fled. Good. I remember toasting their journey in the hopes that they fell prey to the vicissitudes of the galaxy. But with them gone, I and the few other visionaries began to lead the people to another existence, a free one. A life without restraint, without controls, without limits.
So basically, it sounds like once the Craftworld Eldar actually left because they, realized that all their warnings were falling on deaf ears, it's like, well, now there's just no one to actually say anything, and the inevitable was approaching just even faster.
Sensation was all. Pleasure was all. Cults to our greatness, our splendor, were formed around us. Me and those like me, the trailblazers. And we did all and anything our hearts desired. The greater the depth of degradation, the more titillating and more enriching of life. That many would be consumed in the fires of our passions was unavoidable. For the truth of the matter is that there are none as the Eldar. None that can experience the universe and all of its beauty and terror in the way to the depth that we can. All others are wan copies, nothing more. Fodder for our enjoyment, our pleasure, our experience. I have culled entire populations of your people to render them for a suitable garnish for my meals, and they should be grateful to be able to serve to my greater glory. I and other such visionaries were still too far forward in our explorations, our experience, that even the cults that sprang up around us were not ready for our bounty, our wisdom. So many of us, the leaders, the old aristocracy of the Eldar houses, but the visionaries on our quest for satiation, we learned that we had to retreat into the webway to gain privacy for our deepest research, our most sublime experiences. Thus many of us formed domains within the webway, within the realm that is neither immaterium or materium. We were safe from prying eyes and dissenting voices that would only curtail our great feats. The craft worlders would state that we descended into hell, our cities bloodbaths, our secret palaces of pain and pleasure, our edifices to experience, were naught but nightmares. But they are blind. They do not see.
It also sounds like the homunculi, that they take that whole thing the Eldar do of how they're, so prideful and think so highly of themselves, it sounds like they took that to just a whole new level, which is saying a lot considering how pompous the Eldar are and how frequently things they do backfire on them because of their, due to their arrogance.
Refuse to admit that in this, as with all things, we were right. For they look to the birthing of she who thirsts, the prince of pleasure, Slaanesh, as a thing of calamity and woe. They call it the fall, children. But from our perspective, when aligned correctly, when we understood, it was nothing short of a blessing that we had wrought. For we had created a dark and terrible god.
Let me guess. Part of why they think it's a blessing is also because, later finding out that, the Eldar can't reincarnate anymore. They have fixed lifespans now. So that it is, one, broken up that the monotony, keeps that from happening. And two, the fact that the Dark Eldar, just to survive, have to feed off suffering, means that the pleasure cults are no longer cults. They are a mainstay of society.
And in doing so our race died, is what they would state. Her birth cry annihilated trillions of bright and glowing immortal souls as she arose. She consumed the existing gods, the old ones, the anachronisms, the weak and timid things that were the foci of our prudish or ancient kin. Outdated and unimportant, they were fed upon by Slaanesh. And with her advent, the nature of reality and our experience changed, as it always should have done.
And, of course, it also changed a lot of things for humanity, considering that, the birthing of Slaanesh also caused a ton of warp storms, and ended up kicking off I think it was Age of Strife.
It evolved, for she awaited the deaths of Eldar with slavering more, consumed all passed into the veil. Our lives of constant reincarnation were over. But more than this. When her birthing scream destroyed the Eldar Empire, it was not alone. For her scream echoed into the webway and touched all of the Eldar souls therein contained. Mine, all of us who had lordship here. And at first it was seen as a curse and an ending, for each could feel her delicious lips at the throat of their souls. her tongue caressing them and slowly by slowly draining the life energy from all of our kind, even within the demi-realm of the webway. There was fear, and there was panic, from those beneath me, beneath my kind. But we visionaries, we lords of reality, we messiahs, we looked harder, with truer eyes. We came to the realization that we had now gained true immortality. For when we inflicted pain, when we witnessed its red flow from others, then it replenished us. It continued us. It made us immortal.
You know, he's not wrong considering what the Dark Eldar do. That this is a closer form of immortality in a sense, in that the physical body doesn't die, whereas previously they die and reincarnate. Although having the ability to reincarnate undead still sounds like a pretty sweet deal, especially when you don't have to torture people to achieve it.
Truly immortal. For we do not now die and stay as formless things and await a body to inhabit as before. No. The God that I was midwife to, creator of father to, it has been the key. For now we cannot be killed by any but our own. Another master of reality. Another homunculus. When I go out to destroy an experience and collect a tithe from your kind, or any of the cornucopia of living beings spread before us in real space.
Actually, that makes sense, I think, because I've heard that the homunculi have been able to actually make this like ball of flesh that's on their backs. That as long as that survives, their entire body can just be regrown from it.
Then I am immune to you. You can kill my body, but should but one part remain, a fingernail, a hair, a molecule even, then I can be regrown by my underlings by merely witnessing pain. I am now truly immortal, as my memories are my own and do not wane in the river of souls. I cannot be killed, and none of this is possible without that which we created, Slanesh, without the Prince of Pleasure that we have created, to be the anchor by which we are tethered to reality. It is not a thing to be feared by one such as me, merely paid her due.
You know, listening to the dilemma of the Drukhari explained in this particular way, I can now see why it is that they chose to further embrace the debauchery instead of trying to course correct.
So you see, there was no fall of the Eldar.
Probably not that I necessarily think that going the route of super debauchery was the right thing to do necessarily, but I can understand why they do it.
There was a simple transaction. We had created an entity, a god, for our own purposes by sacrificing trillions of souls. I miss none. They were weak and pathetic, and were placed on the altar of advance and our own godhood. We, the few, the visionaries, the true inheritors of the will of our race. Thus do I now pay her due, on behalf of those above us, those who have begged and secured my alchemical power for new life. And you are the gateway, the raw material I shall use to perform this transaction, so that those I have chosen can live again, without the messiness and loss of resurrection. I bring them back. Then it begins.
You know, this also kind of makes me wonder, because I never really thought about it before. Where does a Drukari's soul go if it's not going to the warp to be devoured by Slaanesh? By that I mean the fact that, well, when they die, their soul is supposed to go to the warp and be slurped up by Slaanesh, but I don't think it'd be possible to resurrect them if that happened. So does their soul remain bound to whatever remains of their body until their body's completely destroyed?
And my mind convulses from the pain it inflicts on me. An intensity I thought unbearable, but as time goes by, when I wish I could return to. Forever onwards. To despair, to degradation, to horror, to an unending hell. But this is not living, this is not existing. This is the fruit of my labours, the bounty of a god who is bruited to protect, but actually sits on his throne doing naught but accepting supplication from an entire race. As the thing above me tears me to pieces and puts me back again. I think of my god, my emperor, but now I know he hath not forsaken me, because he never cared from the first. All my life I prayed to him, yet still this is my fate, and he is impotent to stop them. These beings from the deepest, darkest realms of hate and pitilessness, for they are as old as he, and they are as powerful, and they exist. And the people of the galaxy, of all worlds, should know. It is only a matter of time until they are taken.
You know, I can understand why someone might end up potentially starting a Dark Eldar cult and worshiping them as gods. Although, that's definitely going to get the exterminatus laid on those heretics by the Inquisition, should it ever be found out. But if only the people of the Imperium knew that probably part of why Big E doesn't normally answer prayers is also because he's kind of busy holding a giant warp rift inside the Imperial Webway closed. In addition to all the other stuff that he does, like when the Sisters of Battle call upon faith powers.
Until they are broken again and again. Until they are reforged and accept their fate as the plaything and repast of the dark denizens of the universe. The Lords of Cormorah, the Eladrithiones, the Dark Eldar.
You know, I really think that someone at GW needs to hire Baldermort to write for them, or rather, they're whoever's on his team, because him him like these people should honestly be allowed to write official stuff, because it is great. It, I never previously thought about things like thought about or really imagined the way that the Drukari might well reason in such a way that to them the cursed situation they've ended up in actually looks good. Although that's kind of rich coming from someone in my position. For those who know, I think I'll end part one here. I hope you all enjoyed watching with me, and I'll continue in the next part of the reaction. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time, ta ta!